Oh, you made a good choice. You're right here with us today here at Rattlebox Games' Game Fight Show March Mayhem Tournament. It's hump day and we're over the hump of the bracket. Over there on the right-hand side, you're with us. I'm Rob Huber, here with
Brendan Riley.
Brendan the Professor Riley.
And we're here to talk to you about 32 of the hottest games. We're fighting it out to see who will come out on top. It would be unwise to talk about hot games and leave off any of the four contenders coming up against each other in today's bouts. Let's start talking about them right now because I just can't wait. Brendan!
You are not kidding, Rob. When you talk about hot games, these four are burning my face off.
My face off.
I'm like that guy at the end of Indiana Jones.
Right out of the gate, if you have a bracket of 32 of the hottest games and Wingspan isn't on it, there's got to be a conversation. There has to be an explanation. And we aren't in that situation because we have Wingspan right here where it belongs. It's in my heart. It's on my shelf. It's in the bracket. And you know what? It's the second seed game in the whole tournament. Elizabeth Hargrave, Stonemaier Games. It is a piece of art. It's a piece of art. Try and convince me on otherwise.
I won't.
Try and convince me.
I will agree with you, sir. I will agree with you. Wingspan, it came on the scene January of 2019, and it has been the hottest thing since then. It won so many awards. People started talking about refiguring how the awards at Board Game Geek are offered because people said, wait, how can Wingspan win all of them? Best War Game? I don't think it won Best War Game, but it very well could have. I think this game was a perfect storm of approachable, thinky, excellent art, interesting theme, beautiful design, excellent marketing, skillful designer.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no downsides to it. And then, Stonemaier Games, few companies, I think there might be 0 companies who do better at supporting their products than Stonemaier Games. They've already released 2 expansions for this, Rob. They said they've got 4 more coming. I think they're going to do one expansion for each continent. I myself am hoping that they'll add in like a mini expansion with mythical birds, but that seems unlikely. I want my Phoenix.
As long as they don't put in the gannet. I don't like them. They wet their nests. Yeah, we got Elizabeth Hargrave here. We've got Wingspan. We've got a delight. And I think it's the only game on the bracket. And it's really one of the few games in the field where it's a woman designing it and women doing the art. The girls came and they came to play. And I think they came to win. We're talking about Elizabeth Hargrave. She knows from beautiful games. She's got Tussie Mussy about flowers.
Oh, yeah.
She's got Mariposa.
Oh, yes.
About butterflies. Hey, Brendan, what would Mariposa probably be in German? What would that be called?
Der Schmetterling!
Then she's got Wingspan. She's someone who understands that games don't have to be about vicious conquest. She's someone who understands they can be about butterflies. They can be about flowers. They can be about birds, but they can be excellent. They can be deep. They can be engaging. I want to see more from this designer. I want to see it now.
Yeah, for sure.
Give it to me. So, what we've got here, essentially, though, is we have a little box full of beautiful, delicate birds, and they're going up against
Cthulhu.
Death May Die.
A game that made so many waves, if nothing else, because you could buy a giant Cthulhu mini. They couldn't even call it a mini anymore. I think it's like a foot tall, maybe a little bigger.
Yeah, it was to scale. I bought one and I live in Chicago. I put it over in the lake and I can see it. I live about 7 or 8 miles inland from the lake. No, it's a maxi. We have to be honest here, folks. It's not a mini. It's a maxi.
Indeed.
The design team. I was talking about how I've been in a designer mind space lately, and the designers on this one, heavy hitters.
No kidding.
We got our friend Bobby D. Rob Diavio coming at you with Eric M. Lang. And these guys, what we've got here is 2 games, 3 designers, and 1 finger. And that finger is right on the pulse. It's on the pulse of the gamers. These folks know what the hobby's about, know what the hobbyists want, and they know how to get it to us. Cthulhu Death May Die.
That they do.
I mean, it's a beautiful game. It's not a beautiful game in the way the Wingspan is in its own dark, twisted, corrupted, insane way. This is a beautiful game too.
Cthulhu Death May Die is an interesting animal in this space because it approaches the dungeon crawl idea from a different direction, right? You know, if you have something like Arkham Horror, right? When people saw this, they're like, oh, it's like Arkham Horror, only, you know, it's Rob Daviau and Eric M. Lang, so it's going to be great. But, you know.
Yeah, I heard plenty of that.
Yeah. But in Arkham Horror, they really want you to think about how life is going to be horrible if these elder gods show up, right? It is doom and gloom in, you know, so it's sort of like you got your horror movies, you got your Babadook, you got your Midsummer, right? It's atmospheric, it's frightening. Cthulhu Death May Die is like Evil Dead 2. Right, it is in your face. Take a shotgun and shoot the Yellow King in the kisser and see what happens. It is ridiculous. It is delightful. It is everything you would want in a game turned up to 11. It's like Shoot 'em Up, the board game.
Once you throw a little paint on these minis, ooh, this game sings. This game sings when you put some paint on those minis. And if you're not good at painting, there are plenty of minis to this game. You're going to get some practice in.
No kidding.
They call themselves CMON now, but if you've been in the hobby long enough, you know that that's short for Cool Mini or not. And I'm going to check here, check the papers. It's Cool Minis. There are Cool Minis in this game.
You make a good point, Rob. This is a place where I think you can definitely say Cthulhu Death May Die comes out ahead of Wingspan. I will say it caused a lot of trouble in my house when I started painting our Wingspan cards. My wife got really mad. She's like, those birds are already painted on there. You don't need to paint them again.
You have many fine attributes, but I'm going to tell you that freehand painting of birds is just not
true.
One of them. If I could take a moment, I promised on Monday that I was going to talk a little about Rainier Knizia. We've talked a lot about Elizabeth Hargrave. I almost feel like talking about Rob Diavio. You know, who isn't thinking about him? Right. All the time. This guy, he's been in games. If you don't know his catalog, you have not been paying attention. He goes from Heroescape to Pandemic Legacy by way of Risk Legacy, and he's doing all these restoration games. He's all over the place. Eric M. Lang.
Ooh.
He brought us, of course, Blood Rage, right?
Blood Rage.
Bloodborne.
Oh, Bloodborne.
Arcadia Quest.
Call of
Cthulhu. More Dice Master games than I could
You might say
shake
he
a
is
stick
the
at.
Dice Master.
Game of Thrones, collectible, and living card. Those are all great, but I just wanted to point out, Rainier Knizia, who's not known for being a huge collaborator, right? You think of him, it's his name on the box. Eric M. Lang worked on Lord of the Rings, The Confrontation. Knizia. Just a little something to think about there. This guy's got such special secret sauce that even the good doctor wants to get a little bit of that in his games.
Eric M. Lang is perhaps the hottest designer out there right now. I don't know that you could point to anybody who's got a bigger group of people that go, wait, that's an Eric M. Lang game? Let me jump on that train. I mean, that's Simon hired him away from FFG to run their games division for a while, right?
Yeah.
He had the trilogy of games. You mentioned Blood Rage, but he also got Rising Sun. People are going crazy for Ankh, which is coming out this year, I think. And there's no stopping him. Chaos in the Old World is a classic that everybody still talks about. There's really no stopping him. And I think a lot of people, now that he's kind of headed out to focus on more design stuff after his time at Simon, I think he's one of those designers that every single time his name comes up, people are going to line up and throw their money at him. And we shouldn't underestimate him in this matchup.
No. And I look forward to seeing much more of him. He's been on the bracket before. The only surprising thing to me is he's only on the bracket once this time around. I look forward. I'm not going to be surprised if Ankh makes it into next year.
And I think it's also worth reminding listeners or letting them know, if they haven't, that he's a really strong advocate for issues regarding diversity in board gaming, that Lang has gone out of his way to help other designers of color try to find a footing in the industry. He talks about these issues with a kind of frankness that, frankly, we need more of.
Here. The more voices we have at the table, the better things are going to be here. And if you have any question about whether that's true or not, just take a look at the work here that Lang and Hargrave have been putting out. Here's an interesting fact about these two games. One of them's rated 8.1 on Board Game Geek. The other's rated 8.2. One of them's weight comes in at 2.42. The other one comes in at 2.42. These games, to look at them, they are very different. But once you sort of take a step back, this is not an easy call that we're making here.
You know, I'm going to say it right now, Rob. I think Stonemaier Games and CMON are missing an incredible opportunity if they don't create an expansion for Cthulhu Death May Die that involves lots of nasty birds. And an add-on for Wingspan that involves, whippoorwills and will-o'-the-wisps and other Cthulhu-type birds. Come on. Let's see some crossover.
And if they did, I think maybe we could just call this bout a tie. Walk away, everyone's happy. But that isn't what we've got. What we've got is an opportunity for our good listeners to go over to Twitter. Speaking in maybe the fact that we're using Twitter and we're voting on Wingspan, does that push things in one direction or another? I don't know. But you go over to Twitter, you go to @GameFightShow, and you vote to see which one's going to come out on top. Wingspan, will they flutter to the top? Or Cthulhu, will it envelop us all in its delicious madness? How many ways would you say there are to find out?
Just one.
And speaking of just one is going to be coming up in the bracket right about now.
Oh, you got me with the segue.
Slick segue alert.
Like a slow pedestrian to the downtown Chicago, you hit me with a segue.
Just one's coming up against Through the Ages, a new story of civilization. Not to be confused with Through the Ages, a story of nude civilization.
The After Dark expansion.
Just to be clear.
Ooh, I got the Caligula card.
Well, and actually, speaking of which, the designer here, I actually looked this up because I've been saying this man's name for many years. Vlaja Hwatl.
No, really?
Yeah, Vlaja Hwatl. I'm afraid so. He has not only this just wonderful game, Through the Ages, a story of civilization, the grandfather of the civilization building game. People come back to it enough so that this is the second edition, right? That's why it's the new story. He's got
no kidding
breadth as well as depth to his catalog. He's also the friend who brought us one Codenames, actually the same year that this came out, 2015. And there's a Codenames After Dark. So that ties it back to your little piece of magic. And you'd actually think just one would be better suited to come up against Codenames.
Right.
But it didn't. That's not how things shook out. Whereas these are, we've talked about having different games. We've talked about that. This is one of those where if they were much more different, you almost wouldn't recognize them as coming from the same hobby. Just one comes in with a weight of 1.06. Through the Ages, a new story of civilization is a 4.41. It's one of the highest weighted games in the whole bracket. Actually, I'm just going to see. Is it the heaviest hitter? Yeah, that's the highest weight. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
I don't think I'm wrong.
Gaia Project, the next closest with 4.34.
But here's the thing. Brendan, I happen to know that this is a game that you're into.
Oh, yes.
Am I wrong?
You're right. I play this game. I like playing it on the table, but to be frank, it takes 4 hours, which means I don't get to play it on the table very often. But I do play asynchronously on Board Game Arena a lot. And either my opponent is genius or I stink really a lot. Because the main guy that I play with, I think we've racked up almost 50 games now, and I have yet to win. But I keep coming back because it is...
Oh, man. Well, good for you for going back.
Well, it's just...
Well, and that says something.
It's so good.
That's going to bring us back to René Knizia there. That quote of his, when playing a game, the goal is to win, but it is the goal that is important, not the winning. Great example. This game keeps you coming back even though you're really bad. You're a bad gamer.
I love Through the Ages, and I love playing it on the table. You got these dozens of cards everywhere. You got cubes upon cubes upon cubes. You're moving around. But it is a beast to play on the table. We were talking about how different Through the Ages and Just One is. Well, just one.
Yeah.
You have a group of people. You have a secret word. The group of people each write one word clue on their clue cards. If any of them match, you hide them.
Yep.
You show it to the person who's trying to guess the clue. They guess it.
Yep.
That's the whole round. I've taught you just one just now. You could play
You
a
now
full
know how to
game of
play.
just one in the same time that it takes one round of the late stages of Through the Ages.
If I may sort of follow you down that rabbit hole, and these two games aren't up against each other, but Rowdy and
Right.
Souter,
Right.
who brought us just one. They're a design duo. All their games are them together. They also brought us Seventh
Oh,
Continent,
my.
which I was sad not to see it coming back to the showdown this year.
Sure, I think when the expansion 7th Citadel comes out, we'll probably see it return.
Oh, yeah. No question. I did a little math. If you just go by the box, you could play 50 games of just one in the time that it takes you to play one game of Seventh Continent. That game on the box says it could take you 1,000 minutes
That's
to
a long
play
time.
this game. And we all know how much faith we should put in those time estimations. So yes, you're right. You're right. Against Through the Ages, once again, this is a game, just one, that you can get in, out, done, boom, had a good time,
So
off
there's
to the
one other
races.
thing that I'm struck by that just seems like really strange to me, and I don't know how to articulate this. So I know that Bruno Cathala has on occasion teamed up with a designer who's known mostly for co-designing with other people, and that's Ludovic Montblanc. I can't
Okay.
remember off the top of my head any games that they made together, but I know that they have. I can't help but notice that the designers Ludovic Rowdy and Bruno Sauter for Just One have the same pair of first names. To me, this says any listeners out there who are looking to design games, if your name is Bruno or Ludovic, you should look for somebody with the other name because there's some magic sauce there when those two people get together.
The name Ludovic, it's a French name and it means hero. It's actually a French-Scottish name, which you don't hear much about that pairing of
Haggis
cultures.
and champagne.
You know what? His name is Brave Hero, and his last name's Rowdy. I think that his representation here on the bracket is showing that his parents were prescient in their naming of their progeny, because here he is. He's up against another. There's so many big names. Vlada. I'm sorry. Vlaja. Vlaja here with this awesome game. But, Vlaja, we were saying already, he's got different sides to him. He's got code names, but he's got this. They've got just one, but they've also got Seventh Continent. I noticed something about the games that come out of Rowdy and Souter. They all have a number.
That's an interesting
title.
That's interesting.
I don't know what that means, but I suspect it's a key to some sort of Masonic
That's hidden within the
truth.
cards for Through the Ages, probably. As voters are thinking about these two games, it's going to be a real challenge because, to me, this sort of feels like saying, what do you like more? Your favorite treat from your local ice cream shop, Brown Cow, Forest Park, Illinois, or a 5-course meal at a super fancy restaurant, right? Like Through the Ages, this is a monumental meal. You sit down, like I said, 4 hours for a 2-player game. It is an undertaking unlike most very, very few other games meet this criteria. By the contrast, Just One, you could play it with anybody, which means everybody can play it. It is super fun to play. It's easy to learn.
Plays online, a treat if you're playing remote.
You could play it with people who have never played a hobby board game before. Try that with Through the Ages. Hey, Grandma, what do you say? Yeah, let's put away that Scrabble. I got a game for you. Grandma would kick your butt, but maybe that's just me. I'm not good at Through the Ages, but I think that Just One. It's hard to tell where the Twitter audience is going to follow. Is it going to be hardcore board game Twitter who comes out to vote and says, I want that Through the Ages delicious 5-course meal? Or is it going to be the maybe casual players or people who like party games, or just, I bet more people have played Just One. It is so flexible, open.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. If we're looking at number of plays in the last month, Just One has thousands more plays. If you're looking at copies owned, it's a little closer, but definitely Through the Ages is more owned. If you're looking at their position on the Board Game Geek rankings, Through the Ages is number 6. And it's been up there, floating around the top for some time now. Just One is number 163. This is something I love about the Elite 8 division, bringing up these award-winning games that, there's no other way it was going to get on the bracket here, but it deserves to be here. And as a matter of fact, as far as its seeding, it's our 15th seed, and Through the Ages is seated below it.
I think we're seeing the difference here, between outsider scrappy games that, when I say outsider, I mean games regular people would play. I love our listeners, I love this hobby, but we got to acknowledge that the hardcore gamers are a niche, and a game like Just One, it's bringing all the boys to the yard. Through the Ages is a sour milkshake for those people.
Well, it's a game that really anyone could enjoy. And, I enjoy seeing who wins these bouts. And I would enjoy it if you slip over to Twitter, go to @GameFightShow, and let us know who you think belongs right there at the top of our leaderboards by giving us your vote on these two hot matches. And if you tune back in Friday, you're going to hear which one came out on top. Speaking of hearing who came out on top, let's see what Eleanor has to tell us about how those last two games from Monday came out. Castles of Burgundy versus Nemesis, and Azul versus Tigris and Euphrates. I'm Frades. Are you Frades? Let's go find out who won those bouts.
I want to find out what happened on the Euphrates River. The Euphrates River.
All right, everyone. It's Eleanor with your results. Monday's bout poses the question, does Nemesis hold a grudge after Castles of Burgundy sent them out the airlock? I'll bet you can't guess who won when Azul went up against Tigris and Euphrates. Guess that crescent wasn't quite as fertile as we've heard. Congratulations to Azul for their big win. Back to you all.
Ooh, thank you, Eleanor, for keeping us up to date.
That's some good reporting.
Yeah, you know what, folks? I want to thank you for voting. I know that was a tough one to call, but I think you got it right. I think in the end, you're gonna see that those were hard-fought battles, but it's gonna be a great outcome.
Yeah,
that's gonna be it for us today. We're gonna leave you to enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we'll be back with you Friday here on Rattlebox Games' Game Fight Show March Mayhem Tournament. I've been Rob Huber here today with your friend Brendan, the Professor Riley.
Thanks for joining us, everybody, on the Game Fight Show.
Game Fight Show.
Brought to you by
Rattlebox Games.
That's probably good, right?
Oh, yeah.